Today we're going to talk about text game and particularly the takeaway. All right, what I call the takeaway, or what can be called the takeaway. I'm Paul, Apex Mindset. Take your finger, slide it over, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, like the video, share it with your friends because I'm practically shadow banned here on YouTube, and get on my email list. So a lot of you guys are trapped indoors with quarantine restrictions once again. So that's the new reality we live in. So your options are to cry about that or to shift and change with the new reality and decide how you're going to use it to your advantage. I recommend the latter. There are guys that are having a lot of trouble with meeting women in this environment. If that's you, pay attention to some of my videos, and maybe that won't be the case. If you're still having trouble, maybe you need to book a consultation and we can square you away. Because the reality is, in this environment, you can absolutely slay. There's plenty of women who are, well, indoors. It's winter, and depending on what part of the world you're in, the climate is pretty cold. They're bored and they're seeking male attention. And more importantly, they're going to seek attention from the most dominant alpha males that they can find if they're available women. So very easy to meet up in person, meet up at one or the other's homes, and a lot of good things happen when that happens. Well, you got to up your game though, or it's not going to work. And although you can still day game and even night game, depending on what areas you're in, with restrictions, that's more difficult. So that means a lot of you are going to have to meet people through online platforms, Instagram, Facebook, dating apps, and so forth. That's fine. So I've put out other videos, and you can search them up or look for them, that discusses a little bit about text game and what to do there. We're going to talk about the takeaway or the walk away. So the strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away from someone. You got to figure women are hypergamous. They need to see you as better than they are. And so your ability to walk away from a discussion or a situation demonstrates higher value. A lot of times when you do this, it's just not going to work anyway because she wasn't that interested. And that's okay. But there are plenty of times when you do a takeaway. And again, I'm referring now to prior to the actual meetup. This is when you first connect, okay? Whether it's on social in a DM or whether it's on a dating app. You first connect and you have a conversation. You're trying to get to a close, meaning get to that meetup, and you're running into barriers or what have you. And so you do what's called the takeaway. Takeaway is something that works in sales, all right? You're trying to close, the person puts barriers up into closing, and so you do a takeaway and you basically walk away. And if that client or that person in the sales scenario isn't going to be a qualified buyer or isn't going to be a qualified client, well, then of course they'll let you walk away, and then you don't waste your time. If they are a potential qualified buyer or client and they're just being indecisive, the takeaway increases your value, increases the value of your product and what your offer, and it causes them to rethink that and pull you back in and then make a decision to go with it. And that's essentially what is happening. You're running into indecisiveness from a woman and you're forcing the decision. And by being willing to walk away or do a takeaway, you're sending the message that you're higher value and that they're going to lose an opportunity. So FOMO, or fear of missing out, all right, psychological framework, their fear of missing out will kick in if they're interested in you enough, and they will move towards an actual meetup. Whereas if you were to continue to banter with them, then they might not do the meetup and just continue to take away your attention. If you were to not do the takeaway and just sort of ghost, then they might get distracted by all the other dudes they're talking to, and they don't really experience that fear of missing out. They just sort of forget about you. So you have to understand, because there's a lot of old school pickup stuff that doesn't apply anymore. The psychology behind those tactics always apply because human psychology hasn't evolved or changed that much. However, the format and the global sexual marketplace has changed. So you have to be able to know how to tailor your game to the new marketplace, the global sexual marketplace. Using old school pickup techniques that are outdated isn't going to help you. What I mean by that is there's a lot of people that have this misplaced idea that, well, if she doesn't have burning desire for you, then forget it, just walk away, blah, 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 blah. Okay, look, that works and makes sense once you're dating somebody. She doesn't know you enough to have burning desire for you from a dating app or from you out of 20 other guys in her DMs. That's what you have to understand. Even if you are a highly sexual marketable guy, women don't make good decisions when it comes to sexual decisions, generally speaking. Women are easily distracted and they're literally drunk on male attention in the global sexual marketplace. A good guy can be right in front of their face, a high sexual market value guy who is going to give them the best D and the best experience and all of the fun and in the world without any negative consequences, and they'll ignore him or not even see him for what he is and make some decision elsewhere just because the other guy was in front of her face and said or did or the right things at the right time, more so than the more marketable guy. When a woman chooses, she's not always choosing the best. She wants to choose the best. That's her goal, but she's not always able to because of her distracted, emotional, decision-making brain. Add that to an online environment where there's nothing but distractions and there's no real connection unless you've actually physically met her. It's very difficult for her to make that decision. So your text game and your game when you're communicating this way, you have to be able to draw her into this interaction with you to agree to a meetup. Again, it doesn't matter. You could be a 10 and she could be a 5, meaning that if she were to see you in a lineup, she would choose you to sleep with every single time. But online with 20 or 30 other dudes that she's been talking to from different platforms over the last week or so, she doesn't even notice you or notice you're there. And so your game has to be a certain way to draw her in a communication sense, because you're limited in the amount of sexual market value you can present. And the other thing is although you can present high sexual market value with Instagram or Facebook, which your Instagram or Facebook page should act as your landing page, so to speak, for women. So if you're on apps or wherever, you should be able to say, well, hey, here's my Instagram or here's my Facebook. And then they go to that and then they see that you're higher value based on the information that you're presenting on whatever your platform is, either both or one or the other, whatever your preference is. That should be sort of how it goes. It acts again as almost like your marketing page for your dating and for whatever you're doing. And so she should see you can demonstrate higher value on, let's say, Facebook, based on your photos and the things you post and what you present than what you actually are, which women do that all the time. All right. So you can sort of fabricate your value. I don't recommend you fabricate too much. I just recommend at all, really. I just recommend that you present yourself in the best light. There has to be congruency. If you're presenting yourself in a light that is not congruent to how you are, well, then you're basically catfishing her, and that doesn't work out too well in the end of it, right? Maybe you do get her to sleep with you and you get lucky, but eventually she figures out what you're all about and it just doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't develop into anything more than that. And I think that most guys would like something a little bit more than that, even if it's a casual relationship. So always be congruent, but use those pages, your main social media page, or both of those, at least Instagram or Facebook, as your marketing page for what you're doing, provided that you're single and you're trying to hook up with women. Okay. And you should have that going for you, whether you're a day, even when restrictions are lifted for day game, night game, or whatever. I'm an in-person game person, but I frequently will exchange Facebook or even Instagram, and then they can see a very limited view of me in my life, but it's always presented in a positive light, right? And they perceive my value, they perceive my status, and that gives them the comfort and the okay to meet up with me and have something else happen. So that's how you'd want to do that. So anyways, getting back to the takeaway. So the takeaway is you've had a conversation, it's gone a certain way, and now you're at a point where she's not making a decision, or she's flaking out on you, or whatever. Okay, you're not moving her to the close. The close is the meetup. And so what this does is it kind of puts or forces her or makes her aware that you're not going to be giving her attention anymore, that she has to make a decision, either see you or get out, right? And that, again, stimulates fear of missing out. And then they are inclined, if they're interested enough, okay, if their interest is enough to seeing you as a sexual being and someone she'd want to be with, then she will often pull the trigger to meet with you. And I can't stress this part enough. Don't take it offensively if she is not burning mad desire for you from the initial text exchange, the initial swipes, or whatever. I have a series of examples in my own life as well as the lives of my clients where a girl was not that excited and very lukewarm from initial exchanges, from an online meetup, or even sometimes in an in-person pickup situation, but where there's only like a couple of minutes in an exchange of info and then, text contact later to set something up. I have countless examples of lukewarm behavior that turn into crazy burning desire after a few dates and encounters and after some sex, okay? Attraction is something that can build, all right? If her initial attraction is enough, in her hindbrain, her chimp brain wants to sleep with you enough, then the rest can happen, but it may take time and development. Your behavior and your skills and your game are what takes that there. And this is kind of the golden ticket for a lot of you guys. Some of you guys are not going to walk in there and just be a Chad and grab a chick and just bang her out. Just bang her immediately because of how attractive you are. All right. Some of you guys are going to need game, and that's okay. It doesn't matter, because if at the end of several dates, because of the connection you build, the behavior that you're demonstrating, that alpha behavior, and the frame you're creating, she may see you as more attractive than other Chads that are more physically dominant and better than you are in terms of the physical sense, right? And how they are physically, because of the frame she's in with you. But you can't develop that frame if you don't get her to go out with you. So you may have to, that's what game is. You may have to execute game, and don't take it personal when a chick is lukewarm or being a little bit flaky. You also don't know what's going on in her life. She could be dating someone else. She probably is dating someone else and putting more focus into that other person. That doesn't mean that other person's better than you. That just means that person has a little bit more of a connection. Maybe they've already banged her, or maybe she's already spent more time with this person in face to face, and here you are, just a guy on the internet, right? Even if you're better looking, she's uncertain about how it's going to turn out with you, and she's been developing something with someone else. Or maybe she's getting off of a relationship and she's dealing with an ex or whatever. Or maybe just, she's been depressed lately and her emotions are blah and she just doesn't feel, who knows, right? There's a million things that could be going on with her, and none of that crap matters. What matters is what happens when she comes into your frame and gets into face-to-face encounters with you. And so some of you guys take this like real personal. The burning desire thing does apply, but it applies over time. If you've put a few dates into a woman and she's not demonstrating desire and she's not that interested after seeing her once or twice, well, sure, move on. Don't waste your time. But some of you guys are terrible at vetting women. You'll go with toxic girls that are going to screw your life up, but then you'll next some girl because she was lukewarm from a swipe in a text exchange. It's a little bit ridiculous when you think about it. So improve your game with the text exchange thing and you'll do okay. Now, I have all this prelude to getting into this because a lot of guys, the objection is going to be, oh, well, I shouldn't have to do a takeaway. If she likes me, has burning desire, then she's just going to jump on my my penis the second that I see her. That's not how it works, right? A woman has to sort of develop this connection with you, okay? There's some scenarios where that does happen, but most scenarios, even if you're super Chad, that's not what happens. So there's development that has to occur, and the takeaway is part of that. All right, this idea, well, if she just sort of doesn't show the interest immediately, well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. All right, that's just not, you're missing opportunities from potential good situations and good, we'll say, relationships or interactions with women. You're missing opportunities because of your lack of game. Okay, that's what it boils down to. So now to the takeaway. Let's say you have interaction. Okay, now you say something like, all right, the end of the interaction, because I'm not going to get into whole entire interactions, right? I've done that in other videos. It'll be too long of a video. So to focus on the takeaway, let's say you're just like, okay, sounds cool, let me know when you're free, or whatever. You had some conversation, you did when are you free this week? She's like, I got to check my schedule, I'm not sure. Something like that. Okay, so she's giving you a flaky answer. All right, that's fine. You're like, cool, just let me know when you're free. All right. And now, like, she doesn't respond to you. She's supposed to contact you back, let you know when she's free. Now, she might be DMing several other guys. She forgot. Again, you're one of 20 dudes, possibly. Maybe she's interested in you, but she is also being pulled in a lot of directions. Remember, girls are flaky and they're easily distracted. So a couple days go by. I would say at least 2, maybe 3 days. You don't hear anything. You can do the takeaway. Takeaway might just be simple message, don't be shy. That's it. Don't be shy. All right. So in other words, you asked, you said, let me know when you get back with me, let you know when you're free. And now you're like, don't be shy. Like, you can let me know anytime now. That's another one too. You can say anytime now and put a wink face. Okay. That you're being like a little sarcastic, funny. So that you'd be surprised how many times a girl will come back with, oh yeah, sorry, I've been really busy. Hey, you know what? This week sucks. Why don't we do Tuesday next week? And she'll come back with a time and a thing. If she is interested, she'll come back with it. Now, if she's not interested enough, she'll ghost you or whatever. She won't even, or she'll be flakier with you. And if that's the case, then you walk away from it. Okay. So the idea of the takeaway is you're sending the message that, okay, like this is it, right? And it's not necessarily with the words. You're not going to sit there and go, because a kind of a weak sort of thing to do would be like, if you don't give me an answer, I'm going to stop texting you. Okay, that's a little bit dumb. It's almost like a threat. You're just giving an answer where the sub-communication or the words or message behind the words says, you don't respond or you don't give me a time that we're going to meet up. Well, that's going to be at the end of it, right? And so that's what you're sending with the takeaway. So don't be shy, or anytime now, a little wink face afterwards or something. That kind of sends that message. Let's say because again, we're dealing with quarantine stuff too. So a lot of these first time meetups are going to be, she comes over your place or you go over her place. Be careful with that. Okay, a lot of you guys are so eager to get laid, you bring any girl over to your place. Well, there's a lot of toxic women out there that are going to bring problems into your life. That might not be the best idea. But that's a whole discussion for another video. She may be coming over, you're going to go over there, whatever, okay? And maybe you're like, well, you're figuring out what to do because the restrictions, and you just say, hey, we'll just come over or whatever. And a lot of times, again, if you guys are not actually in the game right now, then you don't know how it is. But women don't just respond right away all the time, right? So she's talking to probably a bunch of other dudes and you're just one of them. So she might respond later that day or the next day or whatever. But she's like ghosting. There's a bit of ghosting that goes on. Not a real ghosting where she ignores you, but she gives a lot of space sometimes between her texts. And so should you, by the way. You're going to do that too. And that's fine. But let's say you don't hear from her for, again, a couple days. And you were just like, hey, we'll just come over. And then she's like, ghost, right? And so maybe she texted something in the morning. You in the afternoon say, yeah, a lot of restrictions. You know what? Just how about just come over? Whatever. And you don't hear anything. Next day happens. Just respond with like, well, if you're into that sort of thing, LOL. All right. Just kind of like, whatever. If you're into that sort of thing, can be your takeaway there. Now, if she doesn't respond to that, okay, you're cool. Walk away. Don't be that guy that just keeps texting. Like, you see those embarrassing situations embarrassing for the guy where he just like, okay, blah, 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 blah. He won't like let it go. Never be that guy. And remember, the takeaway is like the last thing you're going to send her unless she responds and tries to interact with you and make something happen. And so you'd be surprised again saying something like, if you're into that sort of thing, LOL, okay, or whatever. It's kind of silly, but something like that, she might respond the next day with, yeah, no, whatever. And then again, it's pile of excuses. I was busy, this, that, but let's do something different, right? So you're in you got the picture like this. You got a pile of 20 dudes in her DMs, right? She's probably dating or banging somebody, okay, over here. You got all these 20 other guys. They're all doing things, all right? She's getting attention from these other guys. She's getting attention for free, and she's never going to respond to any of that. Remember, women seek out attention because their mating strategy. They seek out attention from other men to get the courage to go for the guy that they actually want to bang. It's a whole nother discussion. But women love attention, and they will soak up attention for free without the intent of doing anything about it. That's what she's doing with most of these other guys. But there's maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 guys she would go on a date with. You're one of them. She's actually going and messing around with one of them, though. Well, that guy, let's say, drops off or flakes off or does something dumb or does something unattractive. Now she's like, I don't know that I want to keep seeing this guy. And then here you are with the takeaway message. What you did was let her know, I'm not going to be around. That's the subcommunication. Like, there's not going to be much more of this interaction here if you're not going to do something about it. And if you were one of the guys that she was interested in and not one of the other 18 guys that she's not interested in, but she'll soak up that attention and keep the DMs going with, then she's going to do something about it. You see what I'm saying? Like, especially if her primary person starts to look weak or flake out or whatever, she might go, you know what? For fear of missing out. Okay, I'll go out with this guy. I'll meet with him next week. Let's just see where that goes. So that's how that happens. And this where the takeaway really wasn't a thing a long time ago. Not too much anyway. I mean, a little bit, but it's more of a thing now because the global sexual marketplace, women are inundated with so much attention, especially if we're dealing with dating apps and social media. The amount of attention they're inundated with is it's a lot, right? And no like human being is designed to really focus on any one thing with all that attention, all those opportunities. So you're making your opportunity known, but you're also making this opportunity known that it's not going to be an opportunity anymore if she doesn't do anything about it. Okay. So another one too, with quarantine restrictions, a lot of times, again, you're going straight for the meetup. You might be like, okay, well, just come over. We'll have drinks at my place. And then she goes. She doesn't say anything. All right. So depending, a lot of the stuff, which one you pick for a takeaway, by the way, will depend on how the previous conversation went. All right. So you pick the one that makes most sense to you and makes most sense for the previous conversation. But if you had a pretty good previous lead up and then you're like, well, just come over and we'll do drinks at my place. And then she sort of ghosts. She doesn't say anything for a day and a half. Then you could say something like, if that makes you a bit nervous, I understand. So that's a real thing. A lot of girls, like, as soon as it comes down to the meetup, they get nervous and they flake out, right? And so she wants to meet with you. The tension is high, which means she's sexually attracted to you, but the tension is too high. She doesn't have enough comfort. And what you don't want to do is waste time with text banter with her for too long, because then you'll beta-tize yourself just like the other 18 guys in her DMs. So you want to catch her when she has tension, but you need to give her enough comfort for the meetup. Too much tension, even if it's sexual tension, and even if she's attracted to you, will result in too much anxiety, and she'll end up flaking off or not meeting with you. So saying something simple like, if that makes you nervous, I understand. Okay, you're telling her you understand that this might make her nervous. This one's really good if that's what you think it is, and if you don't think it's something else. If you think she's just nervous about the meetup, this one's really good to use, because a lot of times you're right, and you're just calling out the elephant in the room, and then she'll say, yeah, I just don't usually meet up with a guy, I'm not sure. And then you say, hey, that's okay, I understand. Why don't we talk on the phone or FaceTime first, just for a little bit? Let's just FaceTime right now or FaceTime later this afternoon. So that way, and that's another thing, another strategy, which is, again, usually in other scenarios, I don't necessarily do the face or recommend guys do the FaceTime or phone call first. But because we're in a pandemic situation, if you live in someplace like Michigan, you're going to meet somewhere outside where it's winter out, right? Or you're going to meet at each other's house. That's like how it's going to go for the most part. It's very few places you can just meet up with and not have a mask on and see the other person, what they look like, and make a real connection with them, and without freezing your nuts off. So this is a way of mitigating that a little bit. Some girls, it's too much of a leap, and that's not bad, by the way. That's kind of a green flag, essentially. If she's not just meeting up with dudes left and right that are strangers to see what their D looks like, well, it's probably a green flag. So maybe get them in a conversation prior to the meetup. All right. Now, video chat can be stressful for girls because they got to look good over video, and sometimes they can stress out about that. So sometimes they'll go to an audio call instead. Either way, and by the way, even really attractive girls can get that. If she thinks you're high enough sexual market value, she's attracted enough to you, she's going to be nervous about looking good for you. It's particularly over video. Some of these hot girls would rather just meet you in person, all right, knowing they'll look better in person maybe than on video. So don't think it's because she's ugly and that's why she doesn't want to get in video. Sometimes it's just her anxiety because she sees you as high value. All right, I've experienced that a number of times. So you just move it to an audio chat, but you give her the option. So that's the answer, right? But the initial takeaway is, if that sort of thing makes you nervous, I understand. And if she doesn't reply or anything like that, then it's a walk away. But oftentimes she will reply, yeah, that's, I'm not sure. Maybe we should talk some more, right? She wants to, because she might genuinely have that concern, in which case then you move it to audio or FaceTime. Don't sit there and agree to text banter with her for another week or two. That's BS. That's free attention again. Okay, that's attention that she's going to soak up and use to meet somebody else. That's a waste of your time potentially, and that's you being compliant or beta to her. You want to be the alpha guy that leads, so you compliance test her. If she's willing to move from the safety of thinking about a text and what she's going to say and replying back whenever she feels like it, to an actual face-to-face or audio meetup, she has to demonstrate enough desire for you to at least want to do that much in order to mitigate any danger and to feel more comfortable for the actual face-to-face meetup, right? So she has to actually be willing enough to do that. If she's not willing enough to do that, I recommend walking away. But again, using the takeaway, hey, if you're too nervous, I understand. And I'll have a good one or whatever. You don't even have to say that, but if you're too nervous, I understand, right? And then just be willing to walk away if she doesn't respond to that. So let's see my notes here. If I have anything else I want to say on this, yeah. So sometimes if she's being a bit flaky, like, oh, I'm not sure, let me get back to you, or whatever, that kind of stuff. Or if she gives you a maybe date, that's another one. More so this one's for the maybe date. Like, yeah, we'll see about Thursday. I'll let you know. Okay, so you don't do maybe dates. We'll see about Thursday. I'll let you know means usually that she wants to keep her options open because she doesn't see you as the best option. Again, don't take it personally. There's 20, 30 of you that she's talking to online. Okay, you're not special yet. You haven't met up with her yet. All right. But you're not going to just be her backup plan either. All right. So this is where you demonstrate your alphaness by setting standards for yourself and not accepting that. And how you do that is you just say, it sounds like you have conflicts. We'll just do it some other time when you are more certain. Okay. Just like that. Sounds like you have conflicts. We'll just do this some other time when you're more certain. So that's a good thing to kind of fire back. Notice I didn't say the word schedule in there, right? I said the word conflicts and I said the word certain. So that the sort of NLP under, subcommunication indicates that I'm calling her out for her conflicted behavior for wanting to meet up with me. And I'm not interested in seeing her unless she's a hell yes girl or certain about my sexual market value, or at least certain enough to meet up. So that's what that message is, and that's that walk away. So if she gives you, well, we'll see about Thursday, I'll let you know. Well, you just say, well, it sounds like you have conflicts. Maybe we'll do it some other time when you're more certain. Now, if she's interested and has a fear of missing out and she's interested enough, she'll say, no, Thursday's going to be probably okay. Let's just plan for 8:00 or whatever. Or she might say, well, no, Thursday could be, I don't have conflicts. Thursday could be okay. I just need to check with my work and I'll get back with you tomorrow. That's fine. If you get that clarification, cool. But see, when you say conflicts and then more certain, and you don't use the term schedule or anything like that, it actually does crawl into her subconscious mind and it causes her to pull out those objections. If she's not in conflict emotionally or mentally about meeting up with you or in conflict about how she feels about your SMV, then she will make that date, or she will correct you and say, no, it could be cool. I got to check with this and mention the schedule conflict, not the other conflict, which would be, I don't know if this guy's hot enough for me to meet up with. You get what I'm saying? And so when you word it like that, it puts something, it gives them a framework in their subconscious mind, and it causes them to either justify it if they see you as sexually marketable enough, or she'll just go, okay, cool, whatever, and it'll blow you off. And if she blows you off, it's no contact now. That was your takeaway. So it's no contact now unless she contacts you and then starts to try to initiate hanging out again, in which case you move right to the meetup. Okay. Here's another one too. If she's being flaky, like agreeing and canceling and then unsure, you can just give a text over, be like, just say, I genuinely didn't take you for the flaky type. That's it. See you around. Or whatever. So that's a bit more harsh of a takeaway. Okay, that is like a Hail Mary pass. You're not being nice anymore, and you really don't care anymore if she tries to contact you more or not. So that's what that one is. All right. So that's a last resort one. When she's being flaky, all right, she's being a flake, you can call her out for it. Just say, I generally didn't take you to be the flaky type. See you around. And you're clearly walking away. You just let her know. And then she might, if she's interested, she'll come back she might be a little bit offended or mad at you, like, oh, come on, like, whatever, no, let's blah, blah, blah. And then you can sort of, address it. Well, we've tried to make plans a couple of times and you sort of flaked out a few times. It's just, you're coming across like that type. If that's not you, that's cool. I didn't think you would be that type. But then we need to definitely make some definite plans then, right? You can have that exchange and that conversation with her but she has to want that exchange, right? And if she's blowing you off, she's not demonstrating she wants the exchange. By doing this, you're actually attacking her character. You're attacking who she is. If she doesn't have the desire for you and she isn't interested in qualifying to you, then she'll blow you off or tell you to F off or whatever. She might might be, screw you kind of a thing. And that's fine. Who cares? She's not qualifying to you anyways. Boom, on to the next. If she is interested in you and interested in qualifying to you, however, and being flaky means that she's a bad chimpanzee too, right? She doesn't want to be seen as a flaky woman. So she might come back with, no, I've had so much going on, blah, 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 justify, and then she'll try to make definite plans with you or whatever. So that can work for that. But again, that's a bit of a Hail Mary. That means you're in all of these, you should be willing to walk away, but that one you're willing to burn the bridge behind you. Okay. Here's another one too. If you've asked her a couple times and she's blown you off, and I really don't recommend asking more than twice, but that's like once 1 week and then next week or so asking again. And if she blows you off, I stop asking. That's been my rule, is about twice. But I mean, it's an art, right? Not a science. So you have to engage with the woman, but you definitely don't want to keep asking a woman over and over to hang out, giving her that free attention and then having her go, bleh, okay? Like, just keep flaking on you. So you would say this, you would say, like, she gives you, I can't this weekend, maybe next week. And just be like, okay, well, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to stop asking. Wink face, have a good weekend, or have a good week. So you tell her, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to stop asking. I would do this at the point that you're stopping asking, okay? A lot of the technique that people do is, let me know if you change your mind. That's okay. That's not terrible, all right? That can't work. That's let me know if you change your mind's a classic one. I've used that before. But a lot of people are like, well, you let me know when you want to do it, or you let me know when you want to hang out. And they'll say that like maybe a couple times as they continue to give this girl attention. I find that to be ineffective. Usually if you're saying that, it's over with anyway. And the reason why is because she knows she can contact you. You don't need to tell her, let me know if you want to hang out or whatever. She knows you can contact you to hang out. The problem is her desire is not high enough for hanging out with you for whatever reason that is. Again, don't take it personal, but her desire is just not at that point with you where she wants to make the contact with you to hang out. So you don't really need to say that, right? And that's the thing about the changing your mind thing. I used to use that one. I used to say that a lot. I don't necessarily like that one as much now after my game got more advanced, just because it's like, of course she's going to let you know if she changes her mind. You don't need to tell her that, right? So I've gotten out of a lot of these things where you're telling her things that you really don't need to tell her. A lot of guys do that in game and pickup and with text game. You don't need to do that, right? She knows she can contact you. She knows she can let you know. She's not only does she know it, but she will let you know when or if she's changed her mind. So you don't need to say that, but you can say, hey, there's going to come a point where I'm going to stop asking. Have a good weekend, right? So that's a pretty bold one to say. And we'll throw a little wink face in there to kind of soften the blow. That's a bold one. And that one works. That's pretty good because that gives her that fear of missing out. And that's when you stop asking too. So she might be expecting that contact from you because you've contacted her now. Let's say week 1, you had some banter. You asked her out. She said too busy. Week 2, you contacted her. How's it going? Hey, what about this week? She said no. And then you say right afterwards, well, there's going to come a point where I'm going to stop asking. Wink face. Have a good week. So maybe she responds right away. Maybe she doesn't. And maybe it's the following week and she's not getting that contact from you anymore. So now she's like, uh-oh, well, this person, she'll think about that. If you are high enough sexual market value to her, that comment will get into her head. Okay, like if she sees you as high enough value, or even if it's just high enough value to give her free attention, she'll see that comment will get into her head, and then she will maybe think twice about that, and maybe that's when she'll do that contact again to you, like, hey, how's it going, or whatever. And then you start a conversation and be like, are you getting back? And when a girl responds with, hey, how's it going, after that kind of a takeaway, I'll go, hey, I hope you're coming back with me with a date and a time that we can hang out. I hope you're getting back with me so you can set up a time to meet this week. Actually, that's what I would say, the second thing, so that's how you handle that. So anyways, there's a bunch of things in there. I'll give you guys a book recommendation real quick because I'm using the words free attention a lot. Now, I don't know if he was the originator of free attention or whatever, okay? But that is in Alan Roger Curry's Mode 1 book. So that's kind of a good one. It's an old book. It's old school, but he talks about the difference between like direct and indirect communication. I talk about that a lot. It's not from his book, but this is stuff that I have. But he has a pretty decent kind of paradigm for how it's good. I like it. It's on my book recommendations for guys. So I'll throw that on there as a game book to recommend. Now, of course, with anything with game, anything I say, anything he says, or anybody else out there, always take it with a grain of salt and tailor it to your own style and your own thing. But I just thought of that now because I'm using the words free attention a lot, and I don't want him to think I'm stealing his material because I certainly am not. But I know that he uses that language in his book a lot. So, and I like his book, so I thought I'd recommend it to you guys. Well, that's all. So good luck. You don't need luck though, because you got skill now, right? So get out there, get dates, have fun. It's 2021. Let's have a good year, regardless of what's going on in the world. Let's make it a good year for you. All right. If you got questions, you got comments, put them in the comments section, and maybe I can make those the topics of other videos. Thanks again for the support.